Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, everyone. Today we are going to present our summary about bilingualism. So there are 3 videos. So let's start with introducing ourselves. My name is Jovin Zaburdumadi with last student number 073.
My name is
Uh,
Naufal with class student number 034.
My name is Febrino Sorambayun with last student number 058.
Okay, so let's start with the first video that will be presented by my friend.
So the first video is Cognitive Advantage of Bilingualism by Maria Polinsky. Next slide. So what is bilingualism? Bilingualism is the ability to speak and understand two languages fluently. Why we must study bilingualism? First one is increasingly common in a globalized world and offers unique insight into cognitive science and neuroscience. Next slide. The bilingual brain enhance executive function. Bilingual individuals often exhibit stronger executive function, enabling better focus, task switching, and decision making. The next is simultaneous language management. The brain of a bilingual person continuously manages two linguistic systems, preventing interference while using one language. Next. So the next is language processing. The first one is switching. Bilingual frequently switch between language depending on the context, audience, or emotional tone. This ability reflects high cognitive flexibility and adaptability. The second one is lexical access. Bilingual manage two vocabularies, which can sometimes result in however, hence problem solving and mental agility. Next. Next, please. So, here's the conclusion. Bilingualism is a cognitive asset with immediate and long-term benefit, including improved executive function, multitasking, and problem-solving skills. It also delays cognitive decline, such as dementia. Early exposure enhances three benefits, making bilingualism valuable for individual and society. Promoting bilingualism foster cognitive resilience, cultural competence, and social adaptability. Next, please.
Okay, now I'll be talking about how bilingual and monolingual babies' brain respond to language. Next slide. So specifically, we will explore the differences in brain activity, cognitive development, and the long-term benefits of early exposure to two languages. Next slide, please. So let's start with how the brain of bilingual and monolingual babies differ. For bilingual babies, their brain show more activity, especially in areas involved with language switching, memory, and cognitive control. This is because they're constantly managing two languages. It's like their brains are working a little harder to keep up with the two languages they are learning. On the other hand, the monolingual babies focus on mastering just one language. Their brain activity is more concentrated in areas directly related to processing that single language. And they don't experience the same level of cognitive challenge as bilingual babies do in terms of switching between languages. Next slide. Okay, now what does this brain activity mean for cognitive development? Well, bilingual babies tend to have greater cognitive flexibility. This means they are better at adjusting to new information and handling unexpected changes. For example, bilinguals often show enhanced problem-solving skills and are constantly juggling two languages. Monolingual babies, however, are focused on mastering their one language. While they do have strong language skills in their language, but they don't develop the same level of flexibility in cognitive tasks. So, while both groups are great at language learning, bilinguals also get the added benefit of more adaptable cognitive skills. Next slide, please. Finally, let's talk about the neural benefits of early bilingual exposure. Bilingual babies develop stronger connection in the brain, particularly in regions responsible for attention, decision making, and language processing. This neural connection help them stay focused, think critically, and make decisions more efficiently. The cool thing is that these neural advantages don't just disappear. They last well into the future. So, early bilingual exposure don't just help babies in the moment. It sets them up for better cognitive abilities down the road, which is a pretty big advantage for their development. Next slide. So the conclusion is bilingual babies show increased brain activity and better cognitive flexibility. Thanks to their ability to juggle two languages, they also benefit from stronger neural connections that help with attention and decision making. While monolingual babies are great at mastering their single language, but they don't develop the same cognitive adaptability. So, early exposure to more than one language can have some lasting positive effects on a child's brain development. That's all. The next video will be presented by my friend.
So this is the third video, the last video. So the title for the video is "How long does it really take to learn a language?" by Stephen Kaufman. So the video is not really long, only 13 minutes. So I will explain briefly the summary, the key insights, etc. for this video. So basically, Stephen Kaufman, yeah, explained that there are three stages of. I'm sorry, there is a problem. Nah, three stages of language acquisition. So the first one is initial stage. Kaufman explained about initial stage happen probably like 16 to 19 hours, or this number may vary, depends on the language and the origin of our language, our mother tongue, because it is variables. So the initial stage is focused on listening and repeated exposure to simple stories for foundational understanding. This is the very first stage of understanding a language. And the second one is comfortable stage. If I'm not mistaken, Kaufman said this might happen around like 3 or maybe 6 months. In this stage, learners start to expand vocabulary and comprehension through intermediate material and conversation. And I think in this stage, we start to engage to more real life conversation and such, and start understanding a little bit more of verbs and how to use it in real discourse. And the third one, the last, is constant improvement. This is when the learners achieve fluency and continue learning through engaging content without a strict focus on grammar initially. So in this video, Kaufman implied a lot of key insights, and I have summarized it There are 4, if I'm not mistaken. So in the opening of the video, I underlined this statement from Kaufman that language acquisition is different from language production. So the initial focus should be on acquiring the language through listening and reading rather than speaking. So this builds a strong foundation. Language acquisition is how we acquire and get used to language itself, not learning the rigid rules of the grammar rules that in the language. So acquisition is how we get comfortable and learn and understand the language with our own comprehension. The second key insight is repetition is key. Kaufman's state that frequent exposure to language through stories help internalize structure and vocabulary, crucial for early stages of learning. As I stated before, Kaufman really implies that grammar is, if we want to acquire or learn a language in a comfortable way, we should not put grammar as a primary points. So initial grammar rules can be intimidating, Kaufman states. He said that learners should focus on acquiring language before delving into grammatical structures because it is important to get ourselves comfortable. And the last one is engagement is essential. Continuous engagement with language through conversation and authentic content fosters ongoing improvement and fluency to our language understanding. So in conclusion, this video, Steve Kaufman outlines a structured approach to language acquisition through 3 stages, which I have mentioned before. Connecting with language, that happened 16 to 19 hours, becoming comfortable, around 6 months, and then constant improvement. Kaufman said learners should focus on listening and exposure to simple stories for foundational understanding instead of rigid grammar rules that might intimidating, he said. Progressing to intermediate materials and conversation. Overall, continuous engagement with language fosters fluency and ongoing improvement. And if I might add, this video relate to bilingualism, that if we want to learn more than one language, the main key is to get ourselves comfortable and not being tightly tied by the grammar rules, but instead we must get the language into ourselves and get comfortable with it. I think that's all from me. I'm sorry if there was mistake from our group. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.